Amiga, do you ever feel caught between two worlds? You cherish your cultural background, but sometimes it clashes with the realities of raising a family in modern America. You might feel pressured to fulfill traditional expectations, yet you crave a life that allows you to be your true, authentic self. If you're a Latina mom nodding your head right now, I see you and I get it. Balanced Motherhood is more than your average mommy coaching program. It's a supportive comunidad designed specifically for you. I understand the unique challenges you face navigating between generations and culturas while forging your own path as a mama. Stop feeling like you have to choose between your roots and your future. Balanced Motherhood empowers you to create a life that celebrates your heritage, embraces your motherhood journey, and prioritizes your own happiness. Spots are limited. Don't miss out on this opportunity to connect with a supportive community and create a more balanced life. Visit the link in the show notes to join the waitlist for the next Balanced Motherhood cohort. I can't wait to meet you. Hola, hola, amiga. Have you ever looked at your friend's life and thought, I wish my life was more like yours? Well, in today's bonus episode, I sit down with author Catalina Margulis to discuss her debut novel, Again, Only More Like You, which is available now in bookstores everywhere. This powerful story explores friendship, motherhood, and the grass that always seems greener on the other side. Catalina shares her journey from magazine editor to mompreneur to author, and how she manages the balance of pursuing creative passions while raising 4 children. Whether you're feeling lost in motherhood, struggling with career transitions, or simply trying to reconnect with your authentic self, this conversation is filled with so much wisdom about creating a life that honors both who you are and who you want to become. So without further ado, here is my interview in this bonus episode with Catalina Margulis, author of Again, Only More Like You, which is now in bookstores everywhere. Welcome to the Viva la Mami podcast. I am your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of 2 on a mission to help redefine the meaning of motherhood as a modern Latina mom. Motherhood can be a complex journey, interwoven in 2 identities that often make us feel ni de aquí, ni de allá. Viva la Mami is committed to providing you with knowledge, tools, and support to navigate the challenges and triumphs of motherhood as Latina moms. On the show, we'll be discussing culturally relevant topics that will help inform and empower you in whichever season you are in on your motherhood journey. We'll be joined by Latina moms, experts and professionals who can offer advice, practical tips, relatable stories, and honest conversations. So bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space as we create comunidad about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. Hola, hola, Catalina. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here today.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here. I am very honored to be one of the people that received your advanced copy of your book, which I am so excited to talk about and share our listeners just a little bit more about your novel and your inspiration for writing it. And we're definitely going to talk about mommy life as we talk, as we speak. But before we get into the conversation, if you can introduce yourself and share a little bit more about who you are to our listeners.
Absolutely. I'd love to. So my name is Catalina Margulis. I am an author. My book, Again, Only More Like You, comes out soon, April 29th, 2025. I'm a speaker. I'm a book coach. I am a former journalist, a magazine editor, and I'm a mom of 4. I'm based in Toronto. My family came here from Argentina when I was a year old. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada. And my dad still winters there, and we've been back a bunch. Love it. Really ought to move there. Really ought to move there.
Please do. I've been to Argentina. This was during, I used to work in higher ed,
Oh,
and I went for this like trip, 10-day trip to Uruguay and
oh,
Argentina for
sí.
free. I was just a chaperone with like college
Oh,
students.
qué bien.
And yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it here. But the students were having more fun,
Yes.
because as a chaperone, you have to like,
Yes, you have to behave.
just like, yes, you have
Yeah.
to behave yourself. I was like, oh, I'm so jealous.
I haven't been back. So my aunt, she lives in Punta del Este, Uruguay right now. So when we go, we can go to the beach and have that experience. But I haven't been back. We went when my son was, I think, 3 months old. We went, and he's 16 now. And it just seems
Wow.
so daunting to take all the kids, and they just really want to go to a beach. They don't want to go to the city. But Zach has been really getting into his Latino heritage and teaching himself Spanish off of Spanish rap. So
That's
yeah, so I
awesome.
think last year or the year before he really wanted to go. So he went down with my sister, and my mom was already there for the winter. And now I'm starting to get it from my other kids that they really want to see it and explore. So I think we might be warming up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go next winter. We'll see.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
It only takes one, to then push everyone else to kind of
yes,
go and
yeah. They're all kind of getting into it, but yeah. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and worked as a journalist and magazine editor, and worked at fashion magazines and parenting magazines, and uh, as eventually as a lot of us mommies uh, experience, it got really hard to work for a corporation, an organization, and be a mom at the same time. And so then it forced me into entrepreneurship. And my parents are all entrepreneurs. So, it was something I'd grown up around, and being able to control my time and my time investment. So I became an entrepreneur. I had my own content agency for many years, and got into personal development, loved it. And between all of those things adding up together, I became a book coach, and that's what I do now.
wow, that's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That is great. And at the time of this recording, your book hasn't launched, but it will. Once we publish this episode, it will be launched and it'll be out in the public. And that is very exciting because, first of all, we need more Latina authors. I cannot stress this enough, more representation. And you being a Latina from Canada, I think that is even more amazing because
Mm.
you're branching out. And I know there is a huge population of Latinos in Toronto
Mm.
specifically, I know of, and I love it. And so, like I said, I've been honored to read your copy,
Yeah,
which
thank
is
you.
I loved it. I think it's very relevant to my current season of life.
Yeah.
It's no longer teenage romance novels,
Yes.
or fantasy, if you will, but it's more so it's reality. It's
Yeah.
it's life. It's basically where we are at,
Mm.
especially for those who are transitioning from their 30s to their 40s.
Hmm.
Um, and so your novel explores a lot about this intersection of motherhood,
Hmm.
career life, or transitions, friendships specifically. And so can you share how your personal experience influenced the two main characters, Carmen and Ali, in your book? Can you tell
Hmm.
us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. It happened when everything was coming to a head for me. I live out in the suburbs. I have a family, and it was like I was living two lives. Then I go to the city, and I don't talk about my family. I don't talk about my kids because that's bad for business. And just trying to have these two completely different lives happening at the same time, and it just collided. And I remember looking on Netflix and looking at bookshelves and like, where am I? Like, who do I turn to? Who's been here before? Who can help me through this moment? What does an alternative life look like? And
Mm,
there's this Toni Morrison quote, which is that, if there's a book that you want to read that hasn't been written, you get to write it. And so I set about doing just that. And, asking myself, like, how do I get myself through is what does the other side look like? What's the best thing that could happen? And it was a chance for me to vent and work it all out on the page and give voice to my experience, which I knew my friends were going through at the same time, just the impossibility of being a working mom and dealing with all that. And then I also had a lot of my single friends that were wondering, is that going to happen for me? Like they're looking at our lives thinking our lives are amazing. And they're like, I want that. I want
Mhm.
to have the house in the suburbs. I want to have a husband. I want to have the kid, and I'm running out of time. Is it going to happen? Do I have to go on my own? And so both of us questioning where we were in our life and what were we going to do about it? Where were we going to go from here? And so that really inspired me to have those two characters. And also, it was also an exercise to play with, am I happy with the way things have turned out? And if there's still time, what would I do differently?
Mm.
And yeah, it was really, really fun to write and be able to write from two completely different female experience and perspectives. And then how they navigate their friendship when they're on completely different sides of the motherhood spectrum.
Yes, and we'll definitely talk about that because I literally saw myself in me and my best friend who she's married. She's definitely in a committed relationship and everything, but she isn't a mom yet, and so it's definitely it's always like, oh, there's a little bit of jealousy, I would
Yeah.
say, or I wish I could be like her. I wish my life was a little different.
Yeah.
And I guess the grass isn't always greener
Yeah.
as you may think, but in other aspects, it is. And so
Yeah.
it's just very complicated.
Yeah.
And how, especially when it comes to friendships, right? How these two individuals, like they known each other for a very long time, and they were individuals before they
Mhm.
then went into other aspects of their lives, right? When they either moved forward or they probably felt like they were stuck in a
Mhm.
way and not progressing, but it's still like I think there's a beauty when your friendship still evolves, even if you're in a different season of life. And so
Mhm.
we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
But in your novel, you speak about like authenticity and reinvention. So for mommies listening who feel a little disconnected with their true selves,
Mhm.
at least right now, who they feel probably lost, what are the first steps that you recommend toward living more authentically and more true to yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think those early years of motherhood are just so all consuming. It's so easy for a lot of us to get lost, or where do we even begin to recover who we are? And is that even possible with the time available to us when we have all these commitments and responsibilities and the kids want all of us? And that begets mom guilt, which is that, they want all of us and motherhood requires all of us. But in order to sustain ourselves, I believe that we do need to protect some corner of our life. Because we were people before this. A lot of us are having children later in life. We've done amazing things. We've gone to college and we've built out careers, and it, you've done so much. And then it doesn't just disappear when you become a mom. And it doesn't mean that you don't have those same desires, that you want to travel or all the ways that you want to self-actualize. Those things don't disappear. And I think that's where, depression can come in, or frustration, and that doesn't serve anybody. And so as much as there's mom guilt for me personally, anytime I do something for myself, I also have some tools right now and some conversations I can counter with in my head that I'm like, I know this makes me a better mom. Like it fills my cup. It's important for me to fill my cup, put my oxygen mask on first, and then I can be a more joyful mother, because otherwise I will be a resentful, angry, bitter,
Mhm.
impatient, frustrated mother.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I love this. And this is what I often talk about here in this platform is like how can we break away from that mindset? And I know it's really hard
Yes.
because my audiences are Latinas and we grow up a lot on like Marianismo and like how you should pour yourselves to everyone else except yourself, right? Like as an individual and catering towards everyone else, making sure that everyone is fed, that they're all clean, that they look presentable. And at the end of the day, it's like we're fachulas, or we just don't prioritize on ourselves. And So yeah, I'm glad that you are mentioning this because I think that it's very relevant
Mm-hmm.
with our experiences. And like I said, I saw Carmen a lot like in me, with my current season of life and how, yeah, like especially how like in relationships, we know that with Allie and her, like they evolved when, one friend has children and the other one doesn't. And even within that, you feel sometimes guilty if
Mm-hmm.
you end up hanging out with your friends, or, you feel guilty within yourself. Like, why am I even thinking this way,
Mm-hmm.
wishing that I had a different life?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a, I don't know, it's, I don't even have the word for it, but with us feeling this way, first of all, we need to validate those feelings, right? Recognize
Yeah.
that it is okay to feel this way, to think this way. And then, how can you essentially move forward? Like, what is it that you want? How can we be more true to ourselves and live authentically
Mm-hmm.
without wishing that we were someone else? We can still bridge
Mm-hmm.
this identity as moms, as women, right? Specifically mujeres. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
can we bridge this duality to become a better version of ourselves?
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's
yeah.
important, my parents divorced when I was young. And so, it was traumatic and it was all the things, but also it was an incredible gift because it humanized my parents from an early age.
Mm.
And I notice with my kids, they've got that perfect nuclear family. And not everything is great and not everything is roses in our family for sure. We have our own struggles. But because they've got these two parents that really love each other and really love them, that we can kind of become these uh, paper cutouts of a mom and a dad. And so I almost think it's as hard as it is for them when I'm being selfish, perhaps, or when I'm working around the clock right now. I've got a book launch coming up and I'm not as present to them and everything that they want or need from me. I think it humanizes me for them, which I think is important for my daughter, that she sees that I get to put myself first sometimes. There's a time and a season for everything. I keep telling the kids, I'll be back in the summer. We're going to have a great summer. But right now, I'm in book launch mode, and I think it's important for my boys to see a woman who is three-dimensional and multifaceted and
Mm.
complicated and not perfect and um, not who they want me to be all the time or who they need me to be all
Mm.
the time, because I'm an individual and I'm living my own life too. So I think even from what
Absolutely.
it teaches the kids, as hard a lesson as that can be, I think it's important.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so going back with, your two characters with Carmen and Allie, like how have your own friendships
Mm,
sustained you through the challenges of motherhood and career changes?
mm,
I'm curious what really inspired you to create these two characters. I know that you
mm.
told us a little bit more about, just the nuances of motherhood and all of that, but um with your personal life and your own friendships, how did that,
Yeah.
sustain itself? Yeah.
I think I disconnected. I was so on a career track that I did disconnect and not look after my friendships for a really long time because, again, only so much of me to go around. And like I said, I was living a double life. I was living this life in the suburbs, and I was living a life in the city as a magazine editor where there were not, ironically, a lot of moms, and we didn't talk about being a
Mm.
mom because it wasn't, it didn't advance our career. And so a lot of my friends were single, and 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 so when I ended up moving back home and being a stay-at-home mom and beginning to feel out entrepreneurship and just getting to finally talk to other moms was so uh, healing and nurturing, and it, just people being real about their experience. And I just felt so alone previous to that. And I was like, I didn't have anybody to talk to about what I was going through. And I just had to pretend like everything was amazing all the time and I had it together. And so to finally talk to other moms and hear their struggles was really helpful to me.
Mm.
And it just made me feel really normal. And then I was also struggling with my friendships, and I'm sure my friends were struggling with me as to like, do we keep this friendship going? Like, what do we even have in common anymore? Um, and especially even with my other mom friends right now, I mean, it's such a struggle for us to get together. There's like so many hilarious memes, right? It's like, we'll get together, and then they're like 70 in Palm Springs, and it's like I have so much grace for them because I know they've got kids and extracurriculars and like so much is going on. So I feel like I finally reached a point where I put a little bit less pressure on myself, that as far as guilt goes, as far as like I'm not present enough for them and they're
Um,
not present for me. But I know that when we do get together or when we do get on a call, even if it's once a year, it's so
mhm.
wonderful. And it's like no time has passed. And it's so nourishing and healing and cathartic, that I know it's worth keeping that connection alive. And I feel they feel the
Yeah.
same.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I'm glad I'm not
No.
alone. And let me tell you, finding new mom friends, I think it's been well, naturally, like I'm a people person. I am a Gemini, first of all. And so I love to just like connect with people and everything. And through this platform, I've been able to establish new friendships, right? But I do hear a lot that it does make it very difficult to find new mom friends
Mm,
and finding the right mom friends. You can have a friend who is a mom, but if their kids are a little older, right,
mm,
than yours, or like for me specifically, like I am raising my kids at this point Spanish dominant, so all what
okay.
we talk about is Spanish and that's it. And it does make it even challenging when my friends and even family members who have kids, like they only speak English, and it makes it so difficult. And yeah, it's I think there's a beauty within that you get to choose.
Mm,
And but it's also, at least for the old friendships, right, that you
mm,
had before you became a mom, it's also important to not lose track of them or even like what you have already created, because I find that a lot of moms, like as soon as they become a mom, it's like full mom mode.
mm,
You just lose everything behind, and it shouldn't be that way.
mm,
Again, we have that ability to split ourselves to make sure that our families, partners, if we are in a partner relationship, are okay, that we are okay. Like, and if we're able to kind of create this sort of unit in our homes, like I'm pretty sure we can do that outside of that, right? Where we
mhm.
bring a little bit of ourselves to our old friendships. We can put a little bit of ourselves into our careers, and just like, again, not just fully let motherhood define you and you
Mhm.
not be defined by
Yeah,
motherhood, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Because I feel like motherhood didn't really feel like it fit me for a long time. I kind of felt like
Mm.
I didn't want to be a mom to begin with. My kids know this. Fortunately, I absolutely freaking love them right now. Like it changed. My first baby changed everything. My priorities completely did a 360, 180. But before that, I like really liked my life. And I
Mhm.
also have like
Mhm.
mis tias, and my aunts don't have kids, and I saw my mom sacrifice so much for me and my sister, and I just was like, wow, you really, you're really the unfortunate one. They are living their life. They're going to Madrid. They're dancing all night. They travel whenever they feel like. They got lots of money. And here my mom is schlepping these two kids around. So I always felt like,
Mm.
I looked up to them. But now, when I think about my mom and, Mother's Day and spa days together, and I'm like, oh no, she really, she did. I don't want to say she won, but she's finally getting her payback. It's like it's finally coming back
Yes.
to her, all the selflessness and self-sacrifice that she's got, to friends, that we adore her and we spend a lot of quality time and
Yeah.
we have a lot of fun together. So that's been
I
rewarding,
love
I
it.
think, for her in this season of her life. Um, but yeah, all that to say, I think some people have a calling. Like my husband had a calling to be a dad. That it's not about a career. There was no other vision or goal he had for himself, and that's how he self-actualized. But for me, there were so many other passion projects. There's writing books and starting businesses, and I can't stop my creative brain and motherhood was one form of creativity for me, but I have a lot of creativity from inside of me, and it manifests in a lot of different ways, and I cannot suppress it because it's not good for my mental health or my soul.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's definitely finding that balance, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. Again, not losing yourself
Mm-hmm.
fully and catering towards others, but also like how can you find this balance, which it's so
It's so
hard. It's
hard.
so hard. And like you said, there will be seasons where you do have to prioritize on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, you are launching this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is me, right? And then there will be seasons where we have to prioritize on our families
Yes.
and again, there's that beauty where we can navigate this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that women can make amazing CEOs
Yeah,
in every single company, but
absolutely.
that's just my thought. It's
Absolutely.
just, yeah. And so, when talking about your book, I feel like we're going back and
Yeah, yeah,
forth,
no worries.
but I'm sure our listeners are hanging in here and, just listening to our conversation because at the end of the day, this is a
Yeah.
conversation. Um, so going back to your character Carmen, she definitely struggles with her identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she has transitioned from like this career woman to a stay-at-home mom, kind of similar to your story,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to mine as well. I,
Mm-hmm.
I was super into being in the professional world, right? Where I just wanted to work, 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 work. And then we had the opportunity for me to to be a stay-at-home mom. And even when I had my first child, I was like, I will never be a stay-at-home mom. And look at me. But what would you say to my listeners who feel like they've lost parts of themselves in motherhood and are sort of seeking reinvention?
Mm-hmm.
And, just how did you also navigate this
Mm-hmm.
too?
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I was so unfulfilled in my career before I left it or was kicked out. Um, and so I started to steal little pieces of time for myself. So, for any would-be authors or writers in here, there's a company and an app called Wattpad. And now Wattpad is a lot of fan fiction, fantasy, not my genre, but they have a great app that you can actually write a book on your phone. And it's really cool because you see the book come alive and it's actually in pages and you see all these things. So I was miserable in a job. And for fun, on my breaks, on my lunches, I would just start tapping out stories on Wattpad. And it just brought me so much joy. And it was that sense of play and I started to give that to myself, and that just grew. And I think from that moment on, I have leaned into what is fun and joyful and playful for me, and that's what works. And it has created entire business trajectories for me, and it's just purely following fun, and childlike joy. And if I follow that, the clients will follow because the joy is infectious, and I'm inviting to
Yeah.
be playful and joyful and with me. So that has not steered me wrong. And the more I carve out that for myself, and again, it brings a different side of myself to my kids than me, going to a job and schlepping there and being unhappy every day, and doing things out of duty and out of responsibility. Now I just do things for fun and everything else follows. But it just
Mm.
started with that one step, those little mini breaks, giving that little thing to myself. And that's what I would say to anybody about following a passion project, or if there's a business you want to start, maybe you love fashion and you want to start a fashion brand, or just like, I was even when I was on mat leave the first time because I couldn't just do mom, like I just couldn't shut off
Mhm.
the creative brain. So I was mom blogging. And just when the baby was napping, and again, it was fun. I felt like I was doing something for myself. I was feeling like I'm not disappearing, and so yeah, all those times that I would give myself those little glimpses. It doesn't have to take up a whole day, but I felt like I was moving towards something that was fulfilling and would eventually turn into something, and it did.
Yeah, I love it. Isn't that beautiful how, like, when you become a mom, you just all of a sudden have room in your brain to be inspired to build something different, like a
Oh,
business or a passion project, or, and I often hear this a lot from the moms that they're like, I don't know what happens, but as soon as I become a mom, all of a sudden I have all of these
Yeah.
ideas running through my head. And I think it's because of lack of sleep. Who knows? But
I think
I,
it definitely unlocked something because these opportunities were available to me in my 20s. Like,
yeah.
you know, and actually I had less responsibility and commitment and financial commitments and responsibility. So why didn't I go after all of these things in my 20s? There was something that happens when you become a mom that I feel like you just step into, just step into your power. You're like, I'm going to take care of this. Like, it's so empowering. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's empowering. It's just seeing that
Mm.
you're capable of so much more than you ever thought possible. And it does unlock things. I think I became a lot more creative afterward, or maybe I was just suppressed that, but there's something about having a kid, it changes everything.
Absolutely. I love it. And I just love that we feel this level of empowerment, and it's almost like this self-fulfillment in a
Mm,
way, but making it more so on how you can leverage it to either an actual business and then refocus your time into that instead of being confined to like the 9 to 5,
mhm,
right? Where many of us, again, we end up either forcefully becoming stay-at-home moms or we decide to be stay-at-home moms, and we have that ability to recreate things and be creative, and I love it.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And so we're going to transition a little bit more on like the mom guilt, because
mhm,
I know that that is such a big thing now that you're in this new transition of launching your book. And if you reflect a little bit on your experience on how it was to actually write this book
mhm,
with having 4 kids, can you walk us through how it looked like on your
mhm,
day to day, or even now? I'm assuming that you are becoming a lot busier with,
mhm,
just promoting your book and the whole marketing aspect of it. But yeah, like what kinds of systems or mindset
mhm.
shifts did you have to break to make sure that also succeed,
Yeah.
that you listen to yourself and become this one person that you want to become too?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think early on, it did feel selfish because and that's kind of the reason why I never wrote a book prior to this one was because, well, I got to get through school and I got to get my career and then I got to have the baby and then it's like I got to make money, I got to pay bills. And so what felt selfish back then was writing a book that wasn't there was no paycheck at the end of it. It wasn't a promotion, and so that was it felt very selfish. And I'm sure my kids have paid a price over the years on some of the choices that I've made to be a stay-at-home mom or to be a part-time mom now, or to be focusing on the book. And they've gone without. I'm sure they would have preferred to have the nice new shoes and a nice new car. And I hope that one day they will forgive me for all of that. But on the other hand, I hope that they're inspired by the bigger dreams that I've had and that I've chased. But yeah, that was a
Mhm.
big piece of mom guilt was that I should be using this time to make money or be able to give my kids more. So there was guilt around that. Lately, I've been so busy with my business, and I was adding up the hours. I'm like, I still probably only work part time. The other day, was in the car 3 hours driving my kids between all their extracurricular activities. I'm like, it looks like I work around the clock, but only because I work in all the cracks of time that are not the kids, but the kids are still
Mhm.
taking most of my day. Um, and so for them it gets I'll get comments from them that I work all the time or I've always got my laptop with me. And we'll have conversations around that, around like what mommy's doing, why I'm doing it, and
Mhm.
why it's important to me and why I think it will help our family. So we're pretty open on those kinds of conversations. But yeah, the kids will give me their feedback every once in a while. And but what I think there's been a few things that have really helped me over the years. First of all, I did do a lot of personal development in the past 5 years, where I got a lot of tools and was able to deal with a lot of the mindset things and the personal guilt and things like that. One thing that has really served me is sprints, and it helps me with writing and it helps me with anything I do, is just from a doing perspective, from a, as far as a goal setting, is having a goal, but having it like a short term. So if you're wanting to write a book, just think to yourself, well, I'm just going to focus on the first draft. Let me give myself 3 months or 6 months. I'm going to do the first draft and then I'm going to walk away and then I'm going to go focus on my business. And so I have seasons like that where I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on my book for 3 months or 6 months. And then I'm going to focus on the business for third and fourth quarter.
Mhm.
Or I know that this is like high enrollment season, or I'm in book launch season and I know the kids will be home for the summer. So summer, I'm really going to scale back. I won't be taking meetings. I won't be taking on new clients. I won't be doing events and things like that. So
Mhm.
compartmentalizing my life to make room for everything, just not at the same time necessarily, has been a big thing.
That's awesome. And that's a big reminder for many. And it doesn't matter if you're thinking about writing a book or being an entrepreneur. I think it's so applicable to everyday life, whether if you are focusing on your job right now or you have this big project, or maybe right now your kids need you because they are going through a lot of emotions. And so it's, I think, again, compartmentalizing. I love
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned that. Um where we can't just do everything all at
Mm-hmm.
once,
Mm-hmm.
because then that's when the resentment comes,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the dysregulation comes, and it affects our mental health, and just like how it doesn't allow us to not like be present,
Mm-hmm.
it yeah, like to with our kids. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so the
No, thanks
sprints, the
for
sprints have really helped, and
sharing.
just and it helps me manage my own emotions, knowing I'm feeling like I'm not being a really great mom right now, but I know that this is just for a short time only, and I know that why my vision, like I'm clear on what my vision is. I know why I'm doing this, and I know that it's for this window only, and then I can be full momming and I'll make it up to them and all of that. The other
Mhm.
thing has been just small attainable goals, and when I first started writing, um, it could just be 20 minutes a day, whatever it is that you're creating, uh, business, book, anything. It doesn't have to be something that takes up your whole day or your whole week. It could just be 20 minutes a day. Can you give yourself 20 minutes a day? And for me, it's a big part of my self-care is giving myself that 20 minutes, taking care of me and my needs and my deep desires is part of my, so I kind of see it hand in hand with self-care. Can I give myself 20 minutes a day for my own
Mhm.
dreams and my own passion
Mhm.
projects? And the rest of the 23 and a half hours is everybody else's, right?
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I often talk about this, that self-care isn't bubble baths, right? It's
Yeah.
not what we often think about what self-care is. It's literally, how are you taking care of yourself? And this could be even like being a little bit productive and
Mm-hmm.
doing work, but it's something that feeds you, right? That you are that literally it fuels you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think that many of us, we think of self-care and like imagine it and see it differently, but it's mostly like, how can you literally dedicate yourself at least 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
an hour, and then it just becomes routine.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes like part of your lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
to, again,
Yeah.
just taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And it changes, when my kids were
Absolutely.
younger, I remember I would square them away. Everybody was out of my face by like 8 o'clock. They were in bed, they were asleep. And my things were happening after 8. I'm like, that's my time, my mommy time. And now
Yes.
my kids never, like, they fall asleep after me. It's impossible to get them to sleep. It's impossible to get them to bed. So, my time has shifted to first thing in the morning. And so I think, especially
Mm,
with mommyhood and everything, it's like the kids go through many different phases. And so what your routine will look like will evolve and change as the kids do, but that time is always available to you. It just might move in the day. But
yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's been, really important. And I also just don't watch a lot of TV, and I don't do, a lot of things because this is important to me, and it does give me energy and fuel me. And so there's a lot of things that fall to the wayside because of it. So it's just being really clear on
Mm,
my priorities and where my time is going and
yes.
optimizing it in the way that best serves me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Time is precious, let me
Yes.
tell you. And if we're just wasting it on scrolling through our phones,
Yes.
then we're just not, again, it all falls back to like how we're modeling ourselves in
Mhm.
front of our kids and also like our well-being. We end up being resentful because, oh my gosh, I don't have so much time. My kids, this and that. And we end up almost blaming the fact that our kids are taking time from us. But it's like, we really need to think about, well, where were we focusing on like
Yeah.
during the past hour or whatever. And I think it all falls back into that self-reflection piece and that
Yeah.
sprint. I love how you
Yes.
mentioned that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been like the key and the answer to me doing anything in my life has really been the sprints.
Love it.
And it gives me the energy too, because when you're looking at a big project, it can be really draining, But if I know, oh, this is just a sprint, it's for a short time only, I get so much energy to tackle just about anything when I know it's just for a short time only.
Right. I know that we talked a lot about mommy guilt and how that looks like, especially for us moms who want to achieve,
Hmm.
but we have certain limits too. We can't just be these super go-getters, and be these super mamas too. And so, what advice would you share with my listeners about how to overcome that mom
Mm.
guilt? And all while like trying to pursue their own
Mm.
projects while also parenting. How does that
Hmm.
look like?
I mean, getting really comfortable with not being a super mom. I have not mastered cooking. I am a terrible cook. I'm actually not,
Hey.
yeah, I'm not great at doing homework with my kids. My husband does that, or now I've got tutors because it's just not good for us, for me to be that person for them. And so acknowledging like what I'm not great at and giving myself grace. And it's like there are things I'm amazing at, but cooking and homework are not one of them. And so, if the kids want to write a story or if they want to workshop an entrepreneurship project that they're working on for school, I'm like, oh, I am in my element. Let's go. Or we're talking about books or we're talking about psychology or personal development. Like I'm always coaching. They're always like, there goes mom again. She's talking about that podcast she watched. And I always telling them about the podcast I'm listening to that I'm learning from. And so
Yeah.
there are the things that I'm good at, and I've gotten better at being okay with not being great at a lot of things. And that's the price I pay because I can't do it all. I definitely
Mm.
can't do it at the same time. And I know that there are things that I'm great at, and I just get to really focus on the things that I'm great at and the things that bring me joy and bring joy to my family.
Ugh, I love it. I love it. Because otherwise, then, yeah, you'll feel guilty and even thinking of yourself as like a deficit,
Oh yeah.
like, oh, I'm not good enough with this. And no, it's definitely acknowledging those aspects, right? Like, what are you actually good at? What are you not? And how can you ask for help too?
Yeah.
And recognizing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Like I'm
I
terrible with
love it.
art projects. My sister got all the art. So it's like, go work with Tia or go with your abuela. Like I'm just totally useless with Play-Doh and a paintbrush. And
Yeah.
there's just no sense in me investing a ton of time to get really great at that, or feeling bad about it. And so, yeah, I just feel like I moved through that a little bit faster, but it did take a lot of practice. And yeah, there are times that I feel really crummy about it, that I'm like, oh, I burned dinner again, like can't get this right. Oh my God. But I'm just like, I just get to make a lot of money so we can hire a cook one day, and that's my vision. Or wait till my dad comes back from Argentina this week, and then Abuelo's in town, and he can properly feed this
Nice.
family and get us chimichurri, and we'll just do steak every
Yes.
night.
Mucho churrasco. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. No, yeah, I think it's again kind of going back to the living authentically as a mom. I think that's something that we all need to recognize, even if we side with our mamas and abuelas that perhaps with the cooking piece,
Mm.
right? They were really great cooks. They were always in the kitchen. That doesn't mean that we need to do that or be that. We are obviously modern
Yes.
mamas, where we are prioritizing ourselves a lot different than they did.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that doesn't mean that we are less of a mom if we don't cook or if we're not in the kitchen every day.
Mm-hmm.
We're just different, and we need to recognize that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just hope, like, the kids may not be nourished in that sense, but hopefully they're getting spiritual nourishment or soulful nourishment. And my flavor of love looks different than definitely my abuelas in their cooking. Yeah.
I love it. No, it's great. I love it. All right. Well, Catalina, I have a final question for you, which I don't prepare my guests until I kind of put them on the spot.
Oh, love it.
So, how are you redefining motherhood?
That is a really great question. I think that I'm redefining it in the sense of it's messier and funnier and more wonderful than anything I imagined and anything that's been depicted for us. I feel like mothers, from what I've seen, have been very two-dimensional on the screen, maybe not so much on the page, but I just think there's so many more nuances and complexity, and women are so much more complex than we've really been shown. And so I do feel like right now there's a wave, there's a momentum of showing women in all their fullness and all their multifacetedness and their complexity, that they can be a mother and they can feel conflicted about that, and they can be in marriage and feel conflicted about that. And that we're not just happy to be here. We actually want a lot more. We want it all, baby.
Yes, we do. We do. And we can do it all, too.
We can do it all.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
Well, Catalina, where can people follow you? Where can people buy your book, which is so exciting?
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more.
Thank you. So you can find me at catalinamargulis.com. The book is at againonlymorelikeyou.com. It's available at all your favorite retailers, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. Comes out April 29th, though it's available now. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, I would love to hear from you. Please do reach out. And you can also find me on Instagram at Cat Margulis.
Awesome. I'll make sure to share that in the show notes. And that way people can follow you and buy your book. Again, I love that this is super relevant to mamas, to cuarentenas, to people that are in their 40s and or going into their 40s. And life doesn't end.
Yeah.
It moves on.
Yes.
And I love it. So
thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a super fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Mujer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a rating and review? Hitting that follow button and reviewing my show will allow other mommies like you find this podcast. Your review will also tell me if you enjoy the show, so I would truly appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget, please share this podcast con tus amigas. Also, make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Okay, mujer, thank you for joining y nos vemos in the next episode.